Well, it's only the start of the season and I found something to be just pissed off enough about that I wanted to make this video. Like, we're already here and we didn't even do anything. If you've been keeping up with any of the video games that have come out in the last year, then you may be familiar with a game called Doki Doki Literature Club because, you know, weebs play games sometimes. Doki Doki Literature Club is literally just a play on just visual novels. It's satire, it's meant to be making fun of visual novels for what they are. And it's something that was made into a huge internet phenomenon where people just responded very positively to something that they thought was good, cute, and funny. A lot of fan art and even merchandise has been made in its place because it's just one of those things that people really do enjoy. It's something that has pretty much brought the internet together on something that they can all agree on. I mean, whether it's good to you or not is subjective, but for the most part, people do still enjoy it, even just for the memes if that's all ever comes out of it, but it's still just a good romp at playing a visual novel and making nonsense happen. But besides the fame that has come from Doki Doki Literature Club, it has had somewhat of a, what would you call it, backlash? Because of its themes of horror or psychological horror, mainly because of its depictions of suicide and depression, which they have said in the game's descriptions way before and even at the beginning that this game is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Individuals suffering from anxiety or depression may not have a safe experience playing this game. For content warnings, please visit their website at ddlc.moe/warning.html. And that's where you can find the information regarding anything that may deal with depression or anxiety, and what you may want to do is not play the game because it may trigger some of those warnings for you personally. So you're probably wondering, NECRO 13, why in the world are you telling us about this game from September 22nd, 2017 with all of these great reviews in this modern day? Well, that's because these idiots at the BBC decided to run their mouth about something that has already been played on the internet thousands of times. And all because the good old people at Kotaku decided they wanted to go ahead and give in their 2 cents about all of this information. Because nothing says social justice quite like that strong steel of the sword, straight from Kotaku and Polygon together. I hope you got your girlfriend and your parents in this room because you're about to get even more disappointed with everybody you know.
Good morning. We're going to start this morning by talking about a free online game after police and a coroner have warned about the risks of it to children.
And the game itself. I mean, let's just be clear here. I mean, they did give you a fair warning before you start the game.
It's called Doki Doki Literature Club, and it starts like a dating game set in a high school and features a group of animated girls in a book club.
Yes, that would be the long and short of what Doki Doki Literature Club is about. I mean, once you get to the end of the game, it's a completely different story, though.
Things do turn sinister, with characters self-harming and killing themselves.
The game turning sinister has nothing to do with the fact that they suffer from depression in the game, or that the fact that the way that these girls feel about you, the main character, is just the way that they cope with certain things, like cutting their wrist or even committing self-harm in some other way. I mean, once you get to the end of the story, it all comes together on why they do this.
It's said to be suitable for players aged 13 or over.
It actually says this game is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. It also gives you that other warning that we talked about earlier, that if you suffer from depression or anxiety, that you may not have a good time playing this game because it has anxiety and depression in it.
It was launched last year and was downloaded 2 million times in the first 4 months. An inquest will be held into the death of a 15-year-old called Ben Wormsley from Bury, whose father said the game dragged his son in.
So this is what it ultimately boils down to, isn't it? Is that this parent didn't want to do his job as a parent to supervise what his kid was doing online or what games he was playing, as he wasn't quite old enough to make these decisions on his own. And there was a game that he just wanted to ride the trend of and play this Doki Doki Literature Club. And it ended up being about depression or anxiety, which is probably what this kid was experiencing. And now that he's taken his life, because he found this one game, because of this one game on Steam, that he could just go ahead and pass the blame off onto, that it's already been out there, he can go ahead and give a scapegoat to the media so that way they can go ahead and attack this game. This is what happens every time a famous video game comes out and it sells well and nothing bad has ever happened to it. As soon as one crime happens, it's always going to be this way. It's never the fault of the parents not watching their kids. It's never going to be the parents just, taking a day off or going on vacation. They could have a lavish lifestyle. It's never going to be their fault. It's always going to be that damned company and their game about suicidal girls in a fictional video game. It's always going to be the video game. Jack Thompson and everybody else are just making this statement. And you, BBC, have had a really bad track record to just go ahead and make all of this news.
And a pre-inquest review is due to take place at 10 o'clock this morning in that case. Greater Manchester Police have said, "We believe this game is a risk to children and young people, especially those that are emotionally vulnerable and anyone with existing mental health concerns."
I hate having to drive this point home so early on in this video, but it is literally in the first seconds of starting the game that it's not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed, and those who have anxiety or depression are going to have a not so fun time playing the game. I mean, there are many video games that deal with depression or anxiety, or they deal with a lot of tougher issues. No one's brought up Undertale in any of this. No one has brought up Lisa, another game that deals with abusive parents and growing up without parents or growing up with an adopted child. No one brings up these games that have all of these other themes. Instead, we're going to focus on the one that one person decided that they wanted to kill themselves over. Rest his soul. But this is where you get everything wrong, BBC.
The coroner has warned this is a psychological horror game with suicide as a main feature.
I wonder if only there was a way that there was a tagging system in place or something like that that could label it as a psychological horror game, so that way it could tell other users that it is a psychological horror game. Maybe if something like that existed on the Steam marketplace, maybe we could then take this a little bit more seriously and caution other people.
And notes too, it does warn it's not suitable for children. However, the graphics, etc., are clearly aimed at young people.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. The BBC and the police over there already said that the graphics are aimed at young people. So I guess that means every visual novel from this point is just made for young people. I mean, not the fact that we have, R18 patches for almost every visual novel ever made. So, Monmusu, I forgot. So even though your game is quite literally a visual novel that has nudity and sexual content, as right there in the tags, even though that your graphics, they're not really, graphics, they're just, art that also happen to be very sexualized in nature, even though that's the case, it's still aimed towards children. I'm sorry, that's just the way that it is. I mean, the BBC said so, and so did the police. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, they got it all figured out over there in London. I just figured you wanted to go ahead and get that message passed along. I mean, I forgot, but I will no longer question.
We've contacted the game's creators, Team Salvato, but so far we haven't heard back. Here's the trailer for the game with that warning right at the start.
So even seeing this doesn't make you say, wow, I shouldn't make a news story about this, but you know what, for shits and giggles, let's do one anyways, because let's spend taxpayer money on this. What a bunch of idiots.
Let's talk about this now with the news editor for the video game website Kotaku UK, Laura Dale.
Oh my god, they got the worst publication in video games journalism!
Also mum of two and casual gamer, Helen Ground. She has played Doki Doki and is a fan.
I've played Doki Doki Literature Club too. Are you gonna invite me on your shithole of your fucking network too? I'd like to be able to answer all your questions and then be absolutely fucking right about everything. I mean, you got two people that don't know anything.
And Lorna Fraser is here from the suicide prevention charity Samaritans. Welcome all of you. Thank you very much for coming on the programme. Laura, describe the premise.
This unfortunate soul is Laura Dale, and she's a news editor over at Kotaku UK, and she made the article, "If you're a parent concerned about Doki Doki Literature Club, here's an explainer," in which she talks mistruths about Doki Doki Literature Club. And if that wasn't enough, this is the same person that was really irritated at the fact that someone asked Jesse Cox if traps were gay at that convention. This is the person that was mad about it.
So the basic premise of the game is that it starts off like a dating sim, as you'd said, that you go to this literature club, try and make friends with all these different girls, and it sort of subverts the expectations of that genre by becoming a horror narrative.
No, it subverts you with how it acts on depression. How these characters and how you interact with them makes them have these changes over their emotions. It's something that even if you play the game, no matter the choices you make, it will make them depressed, or the things that they do are all within Monica's interest. I mean, let's just be real here. It's not really a spoiler this time.
A little bit of spoilers for the game. One of the characters, as it turns out, is not happy that you're dating the other video game characters, and she manipulates events so that other characters will commit suicide and will sort of drive you towards dating her instead.
I hate having to explain this, even though you're a games journalist. I mean, you guys don't play video games anyways. I mean, this is something that you don't understand. Monica does try to influence you through obstacles set in your way to make you choose any of the three girls, but ultimately it's supposed to be down to just Monica. And that's pretty much the entire emphasis of the game. But she doesn't kill characters. She just has these roadblocks in the way, and you're going to spend time with those characters. She just throws obstacles in the way. That's it. She doesn't kill them. And only one other character does not die. They do not commit suicide. Come on.
And what's your reaction to this warning from the coroner and Greater Manchester Police about the risks to children and those who are vulnerable?
Risk to children. Even though it says that this game is probably not suitable for children in the first place, there's a lot of safeguards in place on Steam alone that makes you confirm your age, and it even tells you that this game is probably not suitable for younger audiences, and it tells you that this game is not suitable for people that are having troubles with anxiety and depression. This could have easily been avoided.
I think that, honestly, it's the same as the risks of any piece of media that deals with these kind of themes, be it video games or movies or books. If you have someone who is already in an emotionally vulnerable state, and you have them engaging with media that tackles these difficult themes, and they don't have an outlet to talk about that properly, that can be a problem.
Yeah, it can be a problem if you let it become a fucking problem. People that are depressed or anxious about something probably shouldn't be playing a game that deals with depression and anxiety and people hanging themselves or stabbing themselves with fucking knives. They should be not doing those things. They should be seeking professional help. They should be going to a psychologist or maybe a neurologist or something like that. They should be taking medicine for these types of symptoms. They should be sitting down doing counseling. There are many ways to deal with these types of issues. Some don't work for others, and there are different ways to deal with it. But listening to this fucking whack job tell you about all of these different things and how to deal with them is just insane.
I think that a lot of it does just come down to communication and making sure that if you've got a child who is already struggling with those themes, that you're aware of what kind of media they're engaging with.
So literally parents doing their fucking job of being parents. This isn't a hard concept to grasp. I mean, they should be watching what their kids are doing online or what games they're downloading or what media they're consuming. especially if they are in this type of depressive state, if they're not engaging as much at school, or if they're just not interacting with you, the parent, as much.
Helen, you've got 2 children, younger children. This game is said to be suitable for 13 and up, and that's because it asks you to tick if you are 13 and up, which of course any age could do.
Not just any age will do, you idiot. Only 13 and up. It goes through verifications right there on Steam itself. What part of this did you not read before you spent taxpayer money to literally research any part of this?
Despite the warning, do you think it is deliberately designed to look attractive to kids?
Well, firstly, it is a dating game. These aren't kids' games. Some people kind of get the idea that this kind of anime style is kiddie because it looks cartoony, but in Japan, anime can be for anyone, and it is over in the US and in the UK.
What? No, that's absolutely incorrect. Anime is not for everyone. That's why there are certain anime that are rated G for all ages, and sometimes they can be rated PG-13 for ages 13 and up. The same argument you're making right here, where they have a lot of titties flying everywhere. I mean, come on, this is simple stuff. You can go find anime that has big boobs all over the cover, or you can find ones where there are just people hanging out, chilling. They're just hanging out there. They're just on a bench. And it could be a really peaceful tale. It can be literally non-Biori levels of just calm and relaxing. Or it can be intense, like Hellsing. And all it is just fucking blood and murder. Come on, this is not for everyone. Anybody can watch it, given they have access. But those are the demographics that we need to go ahead and look at. I know that you're not very familiar with this, being a mother and a casual gamer, because, you know, am I right, gamers? But this is like real life. This isn't like something that you can just bring up because you don't know anything about. This is something that you need to know about because you're on the BBC, which, I mean, nowadays is a joke. But in real life, you need to know these things. Otherwise, you look pretentious and like an idiot.
And this type of game isn't a type of game for children. I would probably not say 13.
Even that's too young?
I would say it's quite questionable, considering the sort of things that is it. But it does.
And that was the end of the discussion, and no one ever brought up Doki Doki Literature Club in a negative light ever again, because the game isn't meant for everyone. The argument you just made about anime being for everyone, this is an anime game that is not made for everyone. It is not made for everyone. It is made for a mature audience. It is made for teenagers that know how to handle themselves. It is made for people that know how to deal with these things.
Playing the game, when you actually start it up, there is a ginormous text that says the game is not suitable for children. If you are easily disturbed, you should not play this. It really does try and tell you, don't play this if you're under a certain age or if you are easily disturbed. And as someone who's also does suffer from mental health problems, you know, I was thinking, ooh, should I actually play this?
So you, being a rational adult, thinking to yourself, maybe I shouldn't play this game, was you thinking rationally. You thinking with a clear and open mind, maybe I shouldn't play this game that might trigger something from my mental health issues. The children can also do the same thing, but that's why parents are there, to guide their children through what maybe they should or shouldn't play. That's why ESRB is a ratings board that was meant to self-govern games and gamers everywhere, so that way big old government didn't come in and take over everything and then start giving you the restrictions, so that way you didn't get shafted on the short end of the stick.
But I did, and it didn't affect me. If anything, some of the things that did come up kind of helped me realise that if a person sort of acts a certain way, that maybe they really do need help.
Right.
If you happen to be one of those millions of people that happen to suffer from any type of depression or anxiety, and nothing has really been helping as far as medication or talking to a psychologist, then there are a couple of different ways that these hotlines and links can help. There is the U.S. Suicide Prevention Hotline and this website with suicidepreventionlifeline.org, where you can call 1-800-273-8255, and someone's available 24/7, and if you live here in the U.S., you can call them anytime. And if you happen to be in the UK, a different side of the world than me, then you can happen to go to sane.org.uk, or you can call 0300-304-7000, and they're open from 4:30 to 10:30 daily. And you can always get help there or on their social media sites that are listed right there in that headline or above. Those are different resources that are available, and if you are having a rough time with any of those things, then make sure that you open up to somebody. Don't take it out on a game that just happens to be available in the closest target, because that may just deepen your depression or the things that you loathe the most. Make sure that you talk to someone and open up a little bit more. Depression doesn't really want you to talk to other people, and it wants you to keep it bottled up inside until something bad happens. But talking to people, or at least these trained professionals, that can help you out a lot.
And how do you react to this warning from the coroner and from Greater Manchester Police? And this is what GMP say: we believe the game is a risk to children and young people, especially those that are emotionally vulnerable and anyone with existing mental health concerns. I would ask parents to check the sites their children are using on a regular basis, as websites like this aren't flagged up by normal firewall settings.
They're not usually flagged up because of firewall settings, because it's an application with a built-in web browser. But regardless, even when you go to the Doki Doki Literature Club page, it will tell you that the contents in the product may not be for all ages. It's just not appropriate. So you can check mark the box to never show it again, or you can just go ahead and view the page and it'll just pop up every time that there's a game that just may have something not suitable or appropriate for any ages. And it'll show you the tags that are commonly related to it. This is something for any age that's not appropriate enough for it, or if you're a parent and you're trying to buy something for your children.
Yep, no, I totally agree. Parents really need to know what their child is doing on the online. I mean, I won't let my child go on my laptop on his own. He's only allowed to access certain things, and I sit with him.
And how old is he?
My oldest is 8 years old.
That's fucking awesome. That's parenting done right. When you're able to see what your kids are doing and you're able to restrict them to what websites they can visit, and you're actually doing your job. You're not letting them play a game where it's literally filled with violence, blood, and gore, and they're nowhere near the age that can play that game. You're actually being a parent. So this lady is destroying the narrative in front of Kotaku, and your taxpayer money's going all the way to it.
He's only allowed to play a maths game called Hit the Button, which is used in quite a lot of schools anyway. The only other time he can access the internet is actually in school, which again, there's always a teacher there watching over the children when they're doing their IT. And I will sit with him. If he wants to do some homework, we'll go on Wikipedia together and we research things together. We read it together.
The internet is a powerful tool where people can play games together, share ideas, complete work, visit family, and create works of art. When used properly and safely, there's no limit to what can be achieved. When I was in school, my internet access was limited to dial-up, and that was the only thing that was offered at the time, at least at my house. And the only way to get high-speed internet was at school or at some of my parents' jobs where they actually had high-speed internet. But most of that was still used for research purposes or very, very limitedly for video games, especially when I got my Xbox 360 and I didn't have high-speed internet. That was really tough. My point is that if you're a child or if you need parental supervision to browse the internet, then please don't be afraid to do so. But if you're an adult, then still use common sense and browse the web safely, and don't go to websites that you yourself would not want to visit in case of any pirate websites, or even just some of the ones that might have malware or crypto mining enabled. I mean, those things can still be there and they can still happen to your computer where they can take over resources or still infect them. Hopefully you have a good, like Avast or a McAfee kind of, security protection. But the whole thing is just to be safe on the internet. And as far as this entire topic goes, This is why this mother, who is a casual gamer, thinks it's best to have her child just be there on the computer with her there and with her present. That's all about internet safety. That way he's not going to go purchase a free game called Doki Doki Literature Club and seeing characters hanging themselves or stabbing themselves. That way he's not reacting or reenacting any of those scenes in the game. Children that young are actually really impressionable. Not that I'm a father or a mother of any child anywhere, but it's just one of those things that if you don't want your child to see it, then don't let them. Be a parent.
You've said that, you've said that you think 13 is potentially too young. What would be a suitable age?
Considering the things, I mean, it's a difficult thing, because the issue is free games like Doki Doki and Five Nights at Freddy's, they don't come under any kind of age rating like video games that you buy in a game shop. So you can easily download them for free and they don't have to go through the whole stringency of going for a certain rating like we have in the UK.
While this is true to an extent, I did do a little bit of research, at least on a certain game, like Mortal Kombat XL, where I went to that Steam page and I was able to bring up the age gate where it asks you to put in your birth date. And, you know, people lie about those all the time, but I put in my actual date of birth and I was able to get through. And I also checked the ratings because the game is still rated by the ESRB here in America, and over in the UK it's rated by PEGI, which is your rating system for all of the UK, or most of Europe anyways. And that's where it does show you those. And to your credit, the indie games do not show a rating, but it still does show you tags, and it does tell you if you have friends on Steam, if it's relevant to anything that you play, but it also has trailers and screenshots of the game, something that you're limited in access to when you go to a game store, where they may not even show previews of older games or of any indie games, because they're just on a smaller scale and they're only here on the PC.
To be honest, I would say 18, considering there is quite some graphical parts in it. It is quite upsetting.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. When you play the game, do you see characters kill themselves, sometimes in quite graphic situations?
One of them especially, yes.
Right.
Sorry to give out spoilers to the 10 people who didn't beat the game, but the only on-screen death that they have is from the one character, Yuri, where she is pretty obsessed with knives and she decides that she wanted to stab herself multiple times. And she's the only character that you see commit suicide on screen. The other character just hangs herself. And that's pretty much all that happens. Everything else is behind closed doors, or the other characters do not kill themselves. It's the only instance of an on-screen death.
Lorna Fraser from Samaritans, how do you respond to that?
Well, what we believe is that this is an example of where it's really important for parents to be aware of the things that they do online. Just as you would want to protect your child in the offline environment, if your kids are going out, you'd like to know where they're going, who they're hanging out with, how they're getting home, this kind of thing.
I think at this point in the video, you have to be wondering why in the world taxpayer money over in London was even spent like doing this entire segment on this newscast. Why is this even a thing? This was one death contributed to one game, and this is what we're doing, is sitting here talking about it. I mean, it's great content for me. I mean, I get to make another video. I mean, yay for me. But I mean, for the BBC, I mean, what the hell is this?
We would encourage parents to have these conversations with your kids, be aware of what they do online. You know, it could give you a false sense of security because they're tucked away in their bedroom or on their tablet or computer, you know, playing something, but they're safe at home. But just be aware that there are dangers.
You see, Lorna, but we're not talking about how safe children can be online, because that's a topic that we've already covered. But in fact, this entire story is because of a youth that decided to take his own life, and the parents decided to blame a video game. That video game being one that has themes of depression, anxiety, and then features suicide as an icing on the cake. So what we really need to be focusing on is Why did his parent not do the job that he was supposed to do? And why is this a segment on your news network?
But it's also important to avoid any confusion around focusing on one particular game, because there will be others. So we don't want to give the message to parents, firstly to really alarm parents, because there are lots of good things online too, but not to give the message to parents that if your child isn't playing this particular game, then there's no cause for concern.
Yeah.
You know, there are others.
Whoa, Kotaku, it seems like your narrative is getting a little shaky there. It seems like the other people are agreeing with us. It's also saying that there's other games that are having these same themes and you better watch out for them. Instead of focusing on just Doki Doki Literature Club, let's talk about other games that also have these themes. Another indie game by the name of Lisa exists, where it deals with the same kind of depression and angst, where a little boy grows up with an abusive father and he somehow grows up to be kind of like a raider of like this wasteland, and he protects this baby, and he eventually grows up and it's this little girl. It's a really good and it's a really touching story, and it has very minimal graphics, but the story itself is really, really deep, and it hits really close to home with a lot of people, especially ones that are in my audience and in my Discord as well. And I hate to bring it up, but Undertale is also another story that has heavy themes with depression and anxiety and things of that nature, but it deals really well with those by having friends surround you and getting the courage and strength to deal with those problems head on. It also deals with separation and things like that. It's just a really heartwarming story once you get through all of it, and if you don't deal with the fandom too much, but it does have a good story in there with some really interesting gameplay. So let's just not focus on one game like Doki Doki Literature Club when there are other games that have other themes just like it. Let's not take for granted what we have here. You're just trying to push this narrative onto one game, but I'm sure you're going to tell us something, aren't you, Kotaku?
Laura, you're nodding your head in agreement.
Definitely. There are certain parts of what have been said about this particular game that do lead me to suspect that it may not have been the only game involved in this particular tragic event. Without knowing specifically...
We'll have to wait for the inquest, so we
can't
have to speculate.
obviously wait for the inquest, but there were statements made about this game by the father that are not things that are featured in this game, which would suggest that perhaps there were other games being engaged with that aren't the focus of this inquest, so...
Oh, Kotaku, you don't play games. All you do is make assumptions about what people play, and then you just try to play it off as if we're the bad guys. Just wait until more information comes out before coming on TV and looking like an ass.
Obviously, this is one game perhaps to look at and say, should your child be playing this? But also be aware of what else they're playing, because there might be other potential risk factors available.
The game itself warns that it's not suitable for children. Mm-hmm. Helen, as a mum of two, one being 8, says, actually, I think 13 is too young. I mean, if you see, in quite graphic situations, a character kill themselves, would you agree 18 would seem more appropriate?
Well, Laura has a lot to work with here, so let's lay out 3 different options. A, yes, it should be labeled over 18. B, no, it shouldn't be labeled over 18. Or C, let's just not even answer the question.
The games like this, as Helen mentioned, aren't rated by any of the ratings boards in the UK. Most of the UK ratings boards would likely rate this at least a 15 or an 18 because it contains scenes of graphic violence relating to suicide.
Sorry to interrupt,
yes.
So my question is...
Oh, that's sorry, but maybe we could try again with the same question, but in a different style.
As a parent, if you're across all the stuff that your kid's playing on tablets and laptops and phones, you might see the beginning of this, which says this game is not suitable for children. If that was me, I'd think, okay, so my teenager, my 14, 15 in a year's time teenager, is all right playing this. And actually, if you played the game yourself as an adult, you might get to the end and think, this is not suitable for a 14, 15, 16-year-old.
Any rational human being that could think logically would think that, yeah.
I certainly think that there are people who would see that warning that says, you know, you should be over 13 and would say, oh,
It doesn't. There is not a warning that says you should be over 13, is there? Let's be clear. It says is this game is not suitable for children, and you're supposed to tick the box if you are over 13.
It's kind of funny to see the Kotaku lady just get slammed like this because it's like she doesn't know anything about what she's talking about. Oh, wait a minute, she really doesn't.
Yes, well, my point being, if there is a tick box that says, are you over 13, I can understand why parents would go, my child is 14, 15, 16, is probably fine with it. And I think there is definitely a concern to be made for, like, parents not paying attention to what their children are engaging with just because there's an age box that was ticked first.
The box wasn't ticked fast, it was ticked accurately. If someone is over the age of 13 and they check the box that says that they're over the age of 13 and they are, then they're telling the truth and they want to play that game. Then it's up to the parents to make sure that it's actually suitable for their kids on their own scale.
But I'm being realistic as a parent.
Yeah.
You know, I might see it says 13, tick that box. I'd see the warning at the beginning, and then I would think, okay, it's fine for my teenager.
I'm not saying that as a criticism of parents.
Yeah.
Like, I understand where that difficulty is for parents. Yeah, I understand that difficulty.
Do you really understand the difficulty for parents? Are you a parent yourself? Do you know how hard it is to screen every single game or piece of media that your kids are going to watch? Do you know where that limit is for yourself? Do you know where that line is, where decency, like right there, is going to be? Where maybe you don't want to see someone's head get blown off, but you're okay with them saying a swear word?
Lorna, the NSPCC tell us the game creators itself warn that it's not suitable for children and those that are easily disturbed. Parents should be aware that the game contains highly sensitive and adult themes such as suicide. It's important for parents to have regular conversations with children about their online lives.
Team Salvato really didn't have to come out with a response, but because they're a company, they probably felt it the best thing to do. It's a game that is not suitable for everyone, and they're making sure that they take the high ground to appease everyone. This game isn't suitable for people that are not emotionally or just not physically there. It's not meant for people with this kind of depression or anxiety or any type of mental disorder or that are easily influenced. That's why this death was not caused by the video games. It wasn't caused by Doki Doki Literature Club. It wasn't caused by any myriad of games that he might have been playing, Call of Duty or otherwise. This was caused by not being a good parent. This was caused by not checking to see what his son was doing on a regular basis on the computer or off the computer. This was not engaging with his son, talking to him, or using the computer or a tablet or whatever as a parenting device. And I see it almost every day that I go out into the real world and I just go to a restaurant, gas station, grocery store. It's the only thing I see. TV is not a babysitter. Your tablet is not going to teach your child anything. So stop using it like it's going to raise your child. You need to be responsible and raise your own children. Have them go outside, read a book. Not Harry Potter though, because that's a little weird from what I'm hearing nowadays. But you gotta be able to teach your children something about how to open up and speak about these issues dealing with depression and stress. Kids nowadays are more stressed than ever. Things they don't teach in school, like how to buy a house or taxes. You could teach them that, something that they don't get taught in school. I don't know. I'm just, shooting ideas out here. I'm not a genius and I'm not a parent, but there's a million things that you could be doing besides them being locked in a room playing Doki Doki Literature Club or any myriad of games that you want to blame for, well, my son killed himself because he was playing a bunch of anime games and the girls in it committed suicide and so did he. That's not what this is about. This is more about the fact that he never checked in. And you can do your part and check in too.
that are as normal as asking about their day at school. What would your advice be to parents who are watching now who might be concerned about this?
To do exactly that. Get to know what your kids are doing online. You know, make this part of everyday conversations so that it's not, it doesn't feel like you're prying into their private lives or doing anything like this. And also making mental health, emotional health part of everyday conversations. You know, these are things that families need to be talking about because it helps to keep people safe.
It does help to keep people safe. In fact, I know that there's at least one viewer of mine that is extremely depressive and he just doesn't ever really feel like living on a given basis. And I know a lot of people do it for the lulz. They say that, you're like, oh, I wish I were dead, LOL. But I mean, he's really depressive. But I expect to see every one of you here every time I post a video because I actually enjoy having you all here and just watching and responding in the comments or coming to my Discord to always berate me because apparently that's just my life now, apparently.
Okay. Thank you all of you. Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Laura.
Well, finally the video's over. But I think the moral of the story is that the media is just trying to make this a bigger deal than it actually is. Doki Doki Literature Club is fun for everyone, well, except for people that have mild issues with depression and anxiety and things like that, but it's universally loved by a lot of people. So just let people enjoy things and be better parents. That's all I really have, and I guess that's where I'll leave it. But before I go, I definitely have to shout out my Patreon supporters. So, last but not least, a huge shout out to Saury, Timothy Harris, Hal9000, and Joshua Craig. Thank you guys so much for your donations and contributions here to the Patreon, and I do so much appreciate it, as well as everybody else that watches and continues to participate in all of my videos. It means a ton to me. But I'll leave you guys to it, and you guys have a good rest of your day.